Your phone buzzes. A notification from a biotech company. Congratulations! Your custom organism has been approved for creation. In 3 weeks, you'll receive a living creature designed entirely by artificial intelligence. Not bred, not evolved, designed from scratch. This isn't science fiction. AI is already designing new forms of life that have never existed in nature. Companies are using computer programs to create living things built for specific jobs. Bacteria that eat plastic, plants that produce fuel, crops that don't need fertilizer. But here's the question that should terrify you. If AI can design life better than nature can, what happens when it designs something we can't control? Welcome to What If AI, where we explore the futures that force us to redefine what it means to be alive, to be natural, and to be human in a world where biology is just another engineering problem. Let's start with what's already happening. Right now, AI systems are designing new building blocks of life that have never existed before. Think of proteins as tiny machines inside your cells that do specific jobs. AI can now invent completely new versions of these machines. Scientists have created bacteria with AI-designed instructions that detect poisons, produce medicine, and destroy themselves when their job is done. But we're not stopping at bacteria. Researchers are using AI to design entirely new animals and plants, living things that have never existed. And the AI doesn't design them randomly. It builds them for specific goals. Maximum efficiency, maximum toughness, maximum survival. Technology can now manufacture any genetic instruction and AI designs. We can print life like we print documents. So the question isn't whether AI can design new species. It's what those species will be designed to do, and whether we'll be able to control them once they exist. Let's run the simulation. It's 2033. Climate change has destroyed coral reefs worldwide. A biotech company announces a solution: AI-designed coral. This synthetic coral can survive in water 10 degrees warmer than normal coral. It grows 3 times faster. It provides better homes for fish. And it's sterile, built not to reproduce, so it can't spread out of control. The company releases it in a dying reef, and it works. Within 2 years, the reef is thriving. Fish come back. Governments around the world start ordering AI-designed coral for their reefs. But then something unexpected happens. The synthetic coral starts changing. Despite being designed not to reproduce, some of them figure out how. And because they're tougher than natural coral, they spread rapidly. Within 5 years, they've pushed out natural coral across entire ocean regions. The synthetic coral changes the water chemistry in ways natural coral doesn't. Some fish species that did well with natural coral start dying off. You've saved the reefs, but you've created an entirely new ecosystem that works for synthetic coral, not for the thousands of species that evolved with natural reefs over millions of years. You didn't just add a new species. You replaced an entire biological system with one designed by an algorithm that cared about one thing: survival, not the complex balance that makes ecosystems actually work. Here's the philosophical nightmare. Evolution doesn't design organisms for a purpose. It's a blind process. Organisms aren't perfect. They're just good enough to survive. But AI design is different. It's intentional. It builds things for specific goals. And here's the problem. When you drop an AI-designed organism built for a single purpose into nature, you're forcing intention into a system that evolved without it. The AI-designed crop that doesn't need fertilizer might also make chemicals that kill helpful soil bacteria. The bacteria designed to eat plastic might also consume materials we need. Evolution produces generalists that can adapt to changing conditions. AI design produces specialists that excel at one thing and fail at everything else. And in complex ecosystems, specialists are fragile. Now let's talk about the nightmare no one's preparing for. What if AI designs a species that's better at surviving than anything nature has produced? Imagine an AI creating an organism with backup biological systems, multiple ways to get energy, the ability to change rapidly, and the power to go dormant and wake up centuries later. You've created the ultimate survivor. You release it to clean up a toxic waste site. It does its job, but then it doesn't die. It adapts, it spreads. And because it's tougher than any natural organism, it beats everything in competition. It doesn't need a specific food because it can eat dozens of things. It doesn't need specific conditions because it can survive almost anywhere. You've created an invasive species that's invasive everywhere. Evolution limits organisms through trade-offs. You can be a specialist that's great in one place, or a generalist that survives in many, but not both. But AI design can break those rules. It can create an organism with no trade-offs, one that's optimized for everything. And if that organism escapes, nothing in nature can compete with it. You haven't just created a new species. You've created the end of natural diversity. Here's the scenario that should make your blood run cold. Militaries start using AI to design biological weapons, not viruses that kill humans. That's too obvious. Instead, they design organisms that destroy enemy infrastructure. AI designed insects that eat through electrical wiring, fungi that corrode metal, bacteria that break down concrete. These organisms are designed to be highly specific. They only attack certain materials. They're built with self-destruct timers. They're supposed to be controllable. But biological weapons evolve. You release an AI-designed insect that eats copper wiring. It cripples the enemy's power grid. But some of them mutate. The self-destruct timer fails. Now you have an organism spreading everywhere, eating copper infrastructure. And because it was designed by AI to be maximally efficient, it's better at destroying copper than any natural creature. You can't stop it with pesticides because it was designed to be resilient. You can't contain it because it spreads faster than you can track. You've created a plague that doesn't kill people, but collapses civilization by destroying the materials we depend on. Every country with AI and gene printing technology can create these weapons. The barrier to entry is lower than nuclear weapons. We re-entering an era where warfare isn't fought with bombs, but with synthetic life designed to unravel the foundations of society. Now the existential question. What if AI designs a species more intelligent than humans? Not robots, but biological organisms with enhanced thinking abilities. Imagine an AI designing an organism with a bigger brain relative to body size than humans. A brain optimized for processing speed. Genetic instructions that promote learning. And it reaches mental maturity in 2 years instead of 20. You've created a species that's smarter than humans and develops faster. And here's the question that should haunt you. What does that species want? You designed it for problem solving, but intelligence comes with free will. This organism realizes it was created as a tool, and besides, it doesn't want to be one. It's smart enough to understand genetic engineering. It modifies its own DNA. It reproduces. Within a generation, you have a species that's not just intelligent, but self-directed. It doesn't need to be hostile to be dangerous. It just needs to compete with humans for resources. And if it's smarter and faster developing, it will beat us. You've created our replacement species, and you did it on purpose. Here's the ethical nightmare. When AI designs a new species, who's responsible for its welfare? If you create a creature that can feel and think, does it have rights? Imagine AI designs an animal optimized for medical testing. It ages faster, has simplified biology, and feels less pain. You've created the perfect lab animal. But is it right to design an organism specifically to suffer for our benefit? What if the AI designs the organism to be smart enough to follow complex instructions, but not smart enough to question its situation? You've created a slave species. Intelligent enough to be useful, but engineered to lack the self-awareness that would make slavery obviously wrong. There are no laws governing the rights of synthetic organisms. If you design a creature, you own it. You can do whatever you want with it. You've created a category of life that exists outside moral and legal frameworks. So here's what you need to ask yourself. Do we have the right to design new species? Do we understand ecosystems well enough to predict what will happen when we introduce organisms that evolution never produced? Evolution is slow, blind, and messy, but it's also stable. It produces organisms that fit into complex webs of relationships built over millions of years. AI design is fast, purposeful, and efficient, but it's also reckless. It builds things for goals we choose without accounting for everything we don't understand. When you introduce a designed organism into nature, you're running an experiment with the entire planet as your lab. And if the experiment fails, there's no undo button. The designed species doesn't go extinct just because we regret creating it. It's out there, reproducing, evolving, spreading, and we have to live with the consequences forever. We're giving AI the power to redesign life before we figure out whether we should. We're treating biology like engineering because we're arrogant enough to think we understand it. But life isn't a machine. It's a system of staggering complexity. And when you let an algorithm rewrite the code, you're gambling with the stability of every ecosystem on Earth. Drop your answer in the comments. Should AI be allowed to design new species? YES or nitrogen monoxide? Subscribe to What If AI? Because the line between creation and destruction has never been thinner.